Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert B. Cialdini. This book reveals the basic tenets of a persuasion, the tactic to get the other party to agree that experts such as salespeople, advertising agencies, even both scammers use. Understanding these principles will not help you become a great persuader, but also protect yourself against schemes tricks. This book written by Dr. Robert P. Cialdini. He is a professor of psychology and marketing. This book based on 35 years of research into a phenomenon of influence and persuasion. Automatic triggers: we are wired to respond predictability to certain cues. In this book, author explains us 6 principles of influence. First, we need to learn, and all animals use cognitive shortcuts to make their lives easier. For example, scientists discovered the nurturing behavior of a mother turkey is triggered almost entirely by the chip chip sound their baby turkey make. If the baby doesn't make the sound, the mother turkey will not ignore it. Surprisingly, scientists could put a tape recorder inside a stuffed cat. If the fake cat also made the chip chip sound, then the turkey would act nurturing toward it too. Typically, turkey and cats are natural enemies, but the chip chip sound triggers an automatic behavior in the turkey that requires no thought. Well, humans also have similar triggers that are automatic and irrational. Usually, they are shortcuts that helps make the correct decisions. Sometimes these triggers can be takeover, so we make decisions against our best interest. For example, adding the single word equals to a request makes a lot more people say yes to it. Study by Ellen Langer tested how many people would let someone cut into the front of line to use a photocopy machine. First, they tried asking, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" And 60% of people said yes. Then they tried asking, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use a Xerox machine because I have to make some copies?" This time, 93% of people said yes. The single word because caused almost everyone to say yes, even when the reason given empty. Well-known principle of human behavior says that when we ask someone to do us a favor, we will be more successful if we provide a reason. People simply like to have reasons for what they do. Author says before we can influence someone, we first have to get their attention. And the best way to get their attention and the best way to get someone's attention is through cues related to sex, danger, or novelty. He wrote a certain cue size our attention vigorously. Those that do so most powerfully are linked to our survival. Sexual and violent stimuli are prime examples because of their connection to make our fundamental motivations to reproduce on the one hand and avoid harm on the other life, and death and literally. For example, advertisement feature attractive people because we are wired by evolution to be on the lookout for sexual stimuli. The news feature violence and natural disasters because we are wired to survive, which means paying close attention to possible danger. Reciprocity: we feel obligated to pay back gifts favor. Here are some real-life examples of the reciprocity rules in action. Free samples: businesses gives out free samples because they know some people will feel a social obligation to buy a product after the smiling supermarket employee has given them a taste. Small gifts: charities, hospitals, and religious organizations often include small unrelated gifts in their donation requests. The Disabled American Veterans Organization doubled the response rate of their mailers from 80% to 35% when they included some free labels. Even unwanted gifts work. One of the religious society gave people on the street free flour before asking for a contribution. Most people didn't want the flour, but volunteers were trained to never take it back, so felt an obligation to give a dollar or two before throwing the flour in the nearest garbage. With this strategy, they've opened hundreds of centers. One final point: reciprocal concession. Author noticed that the negotiation when one side make a concession, it is viewed almost like the favor. A concession on one side usually triggers the other side into making their own concession. It's another form of reciprocity. This is why a savvy negotiation often starts with extreme demands. When they make a concession from that starting position, then the other side often feels obligated to make their own concession. On the other hand, an effective strategy is to make a big request. First, they retreat to a smaller request. Smaller request being what you really wanted in the first place. Cialdini calls this the request then retreat strategy. Commitment and consistency. We want to appear consistent with our past action. This means we usually want to be consistent with what we have done and said in the past. Unfortunately, this human tendency can lead us down the path of foolish consistency. If someone can make us do a small action, then we will be more likely to do large actions. Consistent with it in the future. Principle of consistency is used in many organizations. Examples are weight loss clinics. People wanting to lose weight are encouraged to write down their goals and share them with everyone. It's a form of a public commitment, and clinics says this often helps their clients stick to the diet when willpower alone would have failed. Door-to-door sales. Companies that sold door-to-door reduce their funds dramatically simply by having the customer fill up the sales agreement instead of a salesperson. This sector was personally committing to the sales greatly reduce future buyer's remorse. College fraternities. Why do so many fraternities have embarrassing or painful initiation rituals? Two researchers found the emotionally difficult rituals later cost membership a lot more. Researchers found a person who go through a great deal of trouble or pain to attain something tend to value it more highly than persons who attain the same thing with the minimum effort. Social proof. We copy the actions of other people. This means we tend to follow what others are doing. If we see many people taking one path, then we assume it's correct for us to do it too. Liking. Simply this just means we prefer to say yes to the request of people we know and like. What is the key factors behind their personal preferences? Physical attractiveness, similarity. Compliments. We usually love getting compliments. Contact. We like things that are familiar to us. Cooperation works a little differently. We also like people who work with us. Conditioning and association. Isaac Asimov quote saying, all things being equal, you root for your own sex, your own culture, your own locality, and what you want to prove is that you are better than the other person. Whomever you root for represent and you, and when he wins, you win. The principles of association generally one. Governing both negative and positive connection and innocent association with either bad things or good things will influence how people feel about us. Authority. Usually people tend to follow authority because we are taught from a very little age that obedience to authority is right and disobedience is wrong. Policeman, fireman, clergy. Title MBA PhD. The way people who are dressed. Scarcity. The scarcity principle states that opportunity seems more available to us when their availability is limited. Fans of behavioral economists may see how this ties into the concept of loss aversion. The fear of loss is always greater than the desire you gain. Examples are limited time of deadlines.